Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the NGA podcast, where we dive into all things gymnastics. Whether you're coaching, cheering from the sidelines, or a gymnast trying to reach that peak performance, this podcast is your go to source for expert tips and inspiring stories that will empower you to excel. I'm your host, Rebecca Grady, and I'm here with my incredible co host.
Hi, guys. Mike Newdor here.
Hey, everybody. Rob Axelrod here, PA in the house.
Hey, everybody. I'm Dr. Ian Kreider.
Hey, guys. Thomas Britton.
So today we're diving into a topic every gymnast has to deal with: pressure. Every gymnast feels it, but how much of that pressure is real? And how much of it is created in their own minds? And more importantly, how can we help them manage it? So to tackle this, let's first talk about the real pressure our gymnasts experience. In gymnastics, pressure can come from so many sources. It might come from coaches, teammates, parents, and more specifically within their own minds. Expectations to perform perfectly, deadlines for leveling up, the need to achieve certain scores, fear of failure, or trying to qualify for competition can create an immense amount of pressure for our gymnasts. So to break it down, let's first talk about the real pressure our gymnasts face and maybe how we as coaches and parents might unintentionally make this worse for our gymnasts. So focusing on coaches first, I think one way we as coaches can add a lot of pressure to our gymnasts is still using fear-based motivation. I really don't think a lot of coaches realize that they're using this type of motivation. So that could come in forms of saying things like, if you don't get this skill, you're not going to be able to compete. Or I've also heard that if you don't try to make this skill, your team's going to have to do conditioning every time you don't try. Or if you don't make this skill, your team isn't going to get their snack break or their drink break. And while I think a lot of coaches think this is a way to motivate our gymnasts, it's actually making them freeze more, especially when our gymnasts are experiencing high anxiety or mental blocks. This is added guilt to them. So now they're not just in charge of what they're doing, but they're also making, their teammates mad. They feel like they're letting them down more so than just letting their coaches down and maybe even their parents. So is this something that you guys have noticed, or what are some of the things that y'all have noticed that coaches might do that add pressure to their gymnasts in the gym?
Yeah, I can start off. I think one of the main things that I see is not so much, what you were talking about is I kind of call it old school, gymnastics, where they're threatening, if you don't do this, you're going to have to do this conditioning or something like that. But just the body language, noises the coach will make, that he's mad, that he's angry at the athlete for not going and not doing the skill that they've had all year long, but now it's state championships and they can't do it anymore. And they can pull off that, my coach is getting mad at me. And that puts a lot of extra pressure on them. You as a coach have to, even though you're not happy with them, you have to take time, work with them, and just say, hey, you're having trouble with it today. We're going to go back and work these basics, these progressions. And normally if you do that, you'll bore them to death and they'll just go and do the skill. And that's what I found with my experience.
I'll jump in on that one. So the whole fear-based thing for me was never an issue, and we don't punish with it. And I didn't even when I was younger in the old school days, and I've been coaching for quite some time. I never used the fear-based or the conditioning, because why would I make an added pressure on my gymnasts with them being this, they're the only one not doing a flight series. So everybody is in push-up position and holding a tall plank until they're ready to get that person to do their flight series. It kind of pits the whole team against them, and you're not getting anything done. So I wouldn't do it. As far as snack goes, I mean, they're athletes. And if you're a coach and you're coaching athletes and you're going to take away their nutrition that they need to get through this sport, then you have no business in the sport. That's my opinion. But I do think that sometimes I can, like based on what Mike said, sometimes my action or my face was really, what am I outwardly projecting to them? Do they see that I'm frustrated? But I talk to them about it. Like I let them know that, listen, I may seem like I'm frustrated that you missed a handstand or you fell over in a handstand. And it's really not, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed, and I'm not disappointed for me. I'm disappointed for you. You're the one who did all this training. And then you're so excited and you went kick pass handstand on the first handstand, and then you fell over. And then you just look at me and we're standing there in competition. And I just say, just start over. It's okay. It's just 5/10. Just start over. And then the kid goes 9-0 on bars or something. Same thing on beam. They go to jump up on beam and they fall off the other side and they haven't even begun yet. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's okay. Just 5/10. And that happened, I think, this weekend at States. One of the little girls did this beautiful routine. It was fantastic. And she did full turn at the end. Boom, she fell. Of course, full turn. And she went 9:05 or 9:1 or something with a fall. So That's pretty good. She has 9.6 or 9.7 beam. So it doesn't make it any better that she fell. But the first person that was there to hug her was me. And the first person to tell her that it was okay before she even touched the beam again when she fell. Don't touch the beam. Just look at me. Take 45 seconds. Take your whole 45 seconds. Regroup. Get yourself situated. Look at me. Look at me again. Look, 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 look. And then they finally look at him like, no, don't cry now. Let's finish the routine. It's only 5 tenths. But how can we fix that in competition where or in practice, they know when it happens in competition that they're going to have some support based on what they're getting in practice, right? So that I have to reevaluate all the time. Am I really stressing out my athletes? I'll let somebody else chime in on it. And then I want to go back to it a little bit because I have one that's really severe that's going on right now in the gym. And I want to bring it up on how this really adds some pressure and stress on kids. And it's something maybe we haven't heard before. So I want to bring it up and we can all talk about it. And I'm kind of in a pinch on what to do on it too.
Excellent. Yeah. And I think, gymnastics is already such a negative sport, right? The judges are trying to find everything wrong. The coaches are correcting everything that's wrong. And coaches have such immense power to affect the flow and the pressure of practice, whether you realize it or not. And if you realize it, then great, you can use that to your advantage and your gymnast's advantage. But if you don't realize that and you're just saying things off the cuff, or you're just saying things that you've heard other coaches that you grew up with or whatever saying, and you're not thinking about what you're doing, then that becomes a problem, right? I'm a big stickler on I need to have a reason for everything I do, whether it's my injury prevention stuff or whether it's the words that I say or the actions that I have or the stretches that we do, whatever it is, I want to make sure there's a reason for everything I say and do. And so when I put pressure on a gymnast, then I want that to be a positive interaction, not a negative interaction, right? There's ways to put pressure on a gymnast that are positive. We've discussed that before with this, but there's, certain times where you go, hey, you need to learn how to accept and deal with pressure. But then there's other times where you have to pull the pressure off and you have to go, nope, this is not a pressure oriented situation. I need you to focus on you. I need you to think about technique. I need you to get through this. And I'm here to give you every single tool that I can give to get you through this scenario or this problem that you're having.
I think that's a really good point about, setting the flow of practice. I really like the way you put that. As a coach, like you said, you have a lot of power. You get to dictate what that is for your own athletes. And I think that's partially understanding how your athletes operate, personally. You can't work with just every group of kids the same. Like when we were coaching at nationals this year or national team camp, for example, I know how my guys operate, but I can't automatically translate that to all the other kids that are at national team camp, right? It just doesn't work the same. Some like their corrections a bit more literal and some like to just be coached in a different way. But another thing that I found really interesting, Robbie talked about how am I expressing myself outwardly is like, a pressure factor. I think that's something I really need to focus on as well. Sometimes I don't have the best poker face at a competition. I'm guilty of that. I'll admit it. A kid has fallen and I'll put my hands on my knees, my head will go down. And, I guess I don't really think about how much of the time that the effect that has on the athlete. Right. And so I've tried to this season, I'm still learning as I go, but this season when there is a fall, be like, well, that has happened and there's nothing we can do to reverse that at the moment. So let's go ahead and move forward. And that's what's going to be most important for us. There's no need to reflect on that at the moment. Let's go finish this routine. And the final thing I want to bring up is I think, we have parent pressure, we have coach pressure, teammate pressure, even to a degree when you need to go hit a routine for a team score, right? But I think just the nature of gymnastics in general already has more pressure than most sports. Basketball, you miss a shot, go back down the court, try again on the next possession. Football, miss a pass, right? You come back and try it again a couple drives later. With gymnastics, you get to warm up, you have your warm up period, then you get one go. That is your one attempt. And, if you fall, you get to keep going, but you don't get a restart, you don't get a redo, right? So generally there's already a higher standard of pressure on the athlete knowing that I get one attempt at this. And if it's a championship competition, then like that's just multiplied by so much because you're like, this is literally the one chance I get to go make this routine and make it well.
I think everything you guys have been saying is so important. And I think it's important for us, obviously, as coaches to pay attention to what we're doing. But if we do make mistakes, like, Rob had said that we're all human, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to be frustrated, we're going to have bad days, but to explain to them why. I think that's the step that we miss a lot of the time is acknowledging that we have shortcomings or that we messed up or something like that. And I think that's where some of us fall into this trap of, of turning into a toxic environment in our gym when we're not going and talking to our gymnasts about that. Rob, did you want to do your example?
Yeah, sure. Yesterday, I know that if somebody was listening to me yesterday coaching towards the end, we were on floor. I gave them 10 minutes to warm up, and I think 30 seconds left in our warm up on floor. And there were two gymnasts that had only taken one pass. So I kind of lost it. I'm like, you know what? Then just don't do your gymnastics. If you're going to take more than 10 minutes, you don't get 10 minutes out of me, then I don't care. And I rephrased and I said, okay, you know what? I do care. But you know what? This is on you. If you don't want to go, then don't go. You don't have to go. In fact, you don't even have to go to the competition if you don't want to. Like at this point, I'm here. I'm supposed to be coaching you, getting ready for you to go, and you're not ready. You don't want to go. You don't want to do this. That's okay. Forget it. Let's just forget it. Then just don't go. And I just kept going and I kept going. And I'm walking around and I'm moving mats. And I'm like, and they know that I'm frustrated. And I was actually angry because they're just not trying. And I don't know if you all remember, but I said there's three things, right? It's one is them of not trying as hard as they can, two, being disrespectful to me, or three, being disrespectful to others. And those are the things that make me mad. And they know that because we discuss it constantly. But I had to regroup after that and kind of walk away, go get a water, go in my office because like my voice was going up and kids were coming in for classes. And I was just that, because I really wanted to say that just forget it. I'm not going. Why should I bother? But that makes me look like it's all about me. Why should I bother? You don't want to go? Don't go. I don't care if you don't go to state. I don't want to go to nationals anyway. Well, that's me. That's me, 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 me. I don't want to be me, me, me. So I made sure that after I calmed down, I came back, and then all of a sudden, wouldn't you know, bing, 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 everybody's stumbling. But then I talk about that after and say, look, I don't want to have to coach this way. Like, because I got heated and I got hot, all of a sudden you girls start doing gymnastics. That's not what I'm about. And I would rather you just not do the gymnastics and not have me get angry or get me upset. And then you do it. You're showing me that you are doing better gymnastics based on me being angry. That's silly. Who are you doing gymnastics for? So that was the one. But this is the most important one I wanted to circle back to was we have a kid who has a scholarship, full ride scholarship to, I don't know whether I should say, I don't want to downgrade or demean the coach, but this coach from this NCAA Division I school, who my level 10 is going to their school on a full ride athletic scholarship, has been told, who I just found out 8 days ago, that the coach at the school said, don't bother. We don't care about anything this season. Don't worry about it. Just make sure you get here and you're healthy. Well, so that would have changed my entire training purpose. Instead of me pushing and trying and like trying to figure out why this kid's miserable and making everyone around her miserable, then just don't do gym. I'll set up a program for you. You go on the bike this day. You'll go to the weight room this day. You'll come in and you'll do basics 3 nights a week, but you'll come in the night group, not in the day group, and it would change everything. So for stress level, this kid's being pulled in 2 different directions. I'm trying to get her ready for competition. She's never been a level 10. She got picked up as a level 9, got a full ride scholarship as a level 9. She's never been to level 10 nationals, and she's never been to level 10 states or regionals. So I'm thinking she's going to go out with a bang. This is what I design children to do. I design my athletes to go out of here fully prepared to enter into the NCAA world, especially those that have full ride scholarships. And I can't do that. She won't let me do that. She doesn't do gymnastics. She hasn't done gymnastics in 3 months. She's got a really huge vault, and she thinks she's going to just walk in the States and do one. And I'm not going to let her because it's unsafe. She has a huge pike front half on vault. It's not some easy peasy vault. It's huge. It's dangerous. It's technical, but if she does it right, she'll win vault. She'll win regionals. She'll win nationals. I mean, the thing is humongous, but why won't she go? She vaults maybe once a month in the gym for the last 3 months. So I'm kind of at a stance. I'm supposed to have a phone call this morning with that coach to say to the college coach, and my opinion to the college coach is exactly what we're talking about today. We here add stress to the child. School adds stress to the child adds stress to the child. The team adds more stress to the athlete. The athlete wants to do well. Competition adds more stress. The dates of the competition add more stress. Getting to states, going to regionals, qualifying at regions, making it to nationals. And then, oh, by the way, you want me to do NGA nationals too. I got another nationals to do. Stress. And then you're in the corner going, don't worry about it. Don't do gymnastics. And she's thinking, well, what if I don't do gymnastics? Do I still keep my scholarship? Am I supposed to listen to her? Am I supposed to listen to my coach? What am I supposed to do? So here's where I toss it to all of you, because I'm really at the point where I kind of want to rip the college coach about how dare you do that to me in our program here. You have put such a on the entire program based on this kid's attitude, where because she doesn't do it, then everybody else, well, she doesn't have to do it. Why don't I have to do it? She doesn't have to vault today, so I don't have to vault today. Or she can't vault, she's got a mental block, I got a mental block. And so this coach has really caused some added stress in the entire program, let alone maybe you could see on me today, because States is Friday. She competes this Friday in 3 days.
Yeah,
A rock and a hard place there, huh? Good grief. And I think there's some good things to be said about, like, we don't want to compete things that are unsafe, right? And there's certain times where, I've had some gymnasts in the past that, like, they struggled with it that week before the meet, but it's not a dangerous skill. Every time they do it, it's perfectly safe. It's not that sort of thing. I'm like, all right, warm it up at the meet. Let's see what it looks like, right? But I certainly get highly technical and dangerous skills where you go, all right, you haven't thrown this vault and how long, and that puts you in a tough spot because you have goals. The college coach kind of has some goals, and it gets really difficult. What were you going to say, Mike?
sorry. Yeah. I was just going to say that my thought is that the college coach said one thing, but the girl took it literally. Whereas the college coach was just saying, do your gymnastics, enjoy it, and stay safe. The main thing is, I don't care about your scores this year. What I care about is you walk on the team healthy. But the way the girl took it from the coach, I think, was literally like, I don't have to do gymnastics. And so I think that the communication with the college coach and yourself would be helpful to talk to her and explain, hey, this is how my athlete took what you told her. Is that what you meant? And I'm sure the college coach did not mean it that literally, but I mean, my thought process. But, where you are right now is, you got to keep your athlete safe. And if you think it's an unsafe, she warms it up and it's not going a direction you think it should, the coach has got to be the bad guy and step in and pull her from the competition. Yeah.
Yeah, she's, pre-qualified to regionals, which makes things easy. But, do you go to the States and fail or just blow it off and don't go? But in my opinion, in my experience is like for your own self, hey, I want to get back in shape a little bit. So I'm going to pick a date and I'm going to run a 5K on X date. Gives you a time frame to get ready. That's kind of how I look at states, regionals, and nationals, right? States is easy. Let's just go in and just kind of do a warm up to get out of the gym. Regionals, we need to qualify to get to nationals. And then at nationals, we let it all go. So regionals is clean, make sure we have 10-0 start values. And then, hey, we're going to throw Maloney Pack, or, we're doing Maloney Pack and we've been training for it. We'll do it at nationals because I'm a senior. I have nothing to lose. So those things with the goals kind of lessen the stress. So, you can go into states and get ready. And that's important, I feel, for the kids. Like, hey, it's just a score. It's a 34. You can get that in your sleep. But she's pre-qualified. So, okay, well, I don't want to go to states then. Well, you're going to go to states and you're going to show your face because you have to go, and you'll just scratch when you get there and be supportive of everybody else. But, I agree, Mike. I think she took it literally. The kid was like, well, I don't want to go. Like, hey, do you want to go now? And I don't care if I go to level 10 nationals. I already got my scholarship. And so I think I want to believe on the right side that coach at the university is not thinking the same way I'm thinking, that you told this kid not to go to nationals, because that's how she took it. Talk about stress, right?
I think that would be one of my first things that I would talk to that coach about, is just making sure that this is how I received it from my gymnast and how she took it. Is this how you meant for her to hear it?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
if
I
not,
would
then
start it. Yeah. I have to think about that, right? How do I start that conversation? Hey, I just want to run something by you. And like, did you mean for this to happen this way, instead of be on the attack? And so let's go ahead and talk to her.
yes.
Let's go ahead and talk to her yesterday, because good old Jersey boy would have showed up that.
Yeah, I think it's always better to go into those conversations with just being curious and wondering where they came from instead of making an assumption about it. And even, when you said your gymnasts weren't tumbling when they're supposed to be during that warm up, that could be another situation that you could bring it to them and be like, hey, so this is what I'm seeing. This is how I'm taking it. And I'm just wondering what's going on. And if you guys could explain this to me, and then that could lower your levels too. And then you kind of can find this common ground of where you guys can go from there. And then it'll make you feel better and not feel like, that you need to take that time away or not. But it's still also really good that you took that time away. It's important to realize when you need to do that.
That's what's in store for today's lineup. And I think, I've talked with you all a few times now, and like each lineup, I think about what it is I want to say, especially to the day group. And sometimes it's 10 minutes worth of speaking. And I always say to the girls, hey, listen, I hope you don't think that I wasted your time, because I'm not wasting time. That these speeches and these motivational talks and just talks in general to feel, how are you feeling, where we're headed, what's in store for the day, what's coming up in the next week. And we talk about it before practice, just like we were talking about setting the tone. Right? Warm up sets the tone for practice. If warm up looks like this, then practice is going to look like that. And so that's for today's speech is about what happened yesterday on floor. It definitely
Yeah,
is in my mind. Yeah, I always think about what I'm going to say for the day. So that's today.
that's
I
important.
think that helps with getting rid of some stress. Like you said, talk about why and how my reactions could raise your stress levels. And the last thing I want to do is raise your stress levels.
Yeah, because how much worse would it be if you hadn't come back to the floor and kind of explained some things, right? And you just left it at that high level stress, and then now they've got practice coming up today, and they're all going, "Oh, man, Coach Rob is probably still mad at us," right?
He's in a mood today.
That's right.
And I
Yep.
mean, that's happened before, and it'll trickle down into the night group. But like I was telling all of you, 2 back-to-back meets in 2 different places, breakdown setup, all kinds of crazy things that could happen. And I was in here, Monday, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed until we got the floor.
Well, I think the major thing is awareness, that you're paying attention to what you're doing and then resetting and talking to them about it. That's one of the best ways I think for us to grow and be better as coaches and just people in general, to figure out how we affect others. So what about moving on to parents and how they can add pressure? Since that's the second part of this, we've already discussed what we've noticed with coaches, but what about parents? What are things that we're seeing that they're doing that can really add pressure?
Man, can I start on this one?
Yeah.
So I think the biggest one that I see just over and over and over again that parents do is they bring finances into a middle schooler's life or a high schooler's life, right?
Yes.
And they go, "Why are we paying all this money if you won't do blank, blank, blank?" Right? And you go, "Look, I understand that finances is a thing, and you have a budget. Every family should have a budget, right? And you should know what you can financially afford and not. And if gymnastics isn't one of those things, you got to figure something out, right? But if it is something you've decided to financially take upon your family to afford, then you need to make sure that the kid stays out of that, right? I'm a firm believer we need to teach our kids about money and teach our kids about finances, but putting pressure on them because of your finances, that's not the thing that should happen. And it shouldn't be like a college coach saying, "Hey, you're on a full ride scholarship. I need this, and this to happen," right? That is a totally different kind of pressure with an adult, right? Because almost every college kid is an adult by the time they get there, right? Versus a middle schooler going, "Oh man, my mom's paying $300 a month for this, and if I don't get my back walkover, then she's gonna be really upset," and that sort of thing.
So I want to go right on that because we have 2 specific incidents. One, the mom, high-powered lady threatening, "I pay," just like you said, "X amount of, $500 a month, and you better be flipping your effing vault," and out loud. And we're like, and if she doesn't flip her vault, you don't want to pay for gymnastics. But if she flips her vault, you don't mind paying for gymnastics. Like, I'm not sure what does that do for the kid? And the next was last year we went someplace, regionals maybe, and we packed up the van and we took a couple of parents and as chaperones and we drove the van with like 6 kids or 7 kids. And we got there and we stopped for lunch and I'm like, "Hey, lunch is going to be on the gym today, right? Everybody gets to go out to lunch on the gym today." But I didn't say that out loud, but I was going to tell them that. So we get in there and the one kid's like, "I don't have any money. I can't get anything to eat." Like, "Well, no, we got you. Well, no, if I get something like that, my mom's going to have to pay you back and we don't have any money." So I'm like, where is this coming from? 12-year-old kids telling us that, the parents. So I went to the parents to talk about the finances. And I said, listen, hey, why would my kids say that? We're financially fine. They live in this gazillion-dollar home and they have a whole big family. And so I don't know, but something's being said in that home out loud for the kid to think that they don't have finances for them to do gymnastics or, let alone order, chicken parm dinner or something. So, yeah, I think that the parents adding stress financially is one of the major issues. And the second thing the parents think is that the more they pay and the more they do and the more they spend and the more privates they get, the better the gymnastics is going to be. And I think that's a huge added stress from the parents because the parents then it kind of circles back to finances. But we pay for all these privates and still don't have your skill. I'm like, you can't buy a Tkachev. There's no price to pay for a Tkachev. It's like, cartwheel's $10 and 2 privates, and it's Takashev's, well, it's 3,030 privates. Okay, you'll have it by then. It just doesn't work that way. So the parents are definite big time stressors. Or the other part of the parents, I think, is they start to question the judging and then they start to question why they got that score, and then they're open about it, and they're yapping in the crowd about it, and that the judging, it's fixed, it's rigged, it's favoritism. And I got 5-year-olds running around going, "It's favoritism." Like, you don't know what favoritism is. You're 5. So yeah,
Right.
that's big, and that comes from the parents.
I've stepped into a unique situation at my new gym I've been at for about 2.5. Well, I say new gym. I've been there about 2.5 years now. At our gym, we have a very limited viewing area, and it's only for our recreational class parents. Our team parents, we have cameras all around the gym, and they can watch it remotely from at home in their car if they like. And so, what I've noticed so far is that the pressure from parents at my gym is significantly lower because they're not there to be talking to the kids during practice or be like, looking like this over shoulders all the time to see what's going on with their child at practice. And it's the focus is a lot better too. They're not constantly looking to see if their parents are watching or see if they're going to say anything about the fall they just had or if they missed a skill or something. And they focus so much more on the gymnastics. And so far, once again, I've noticed when we get to competitions, that seems to translate pretty well. And, we could just have a wonderful group of parents. The sample size isn't super large. Like, the competitions, they are very reserved. They keep themselves. They're very positive. Even when there's a fall, they're very positive. And I've noticed if a child of mine has a bad meet, they after the competition, the parents very making sure they're okay first and telling them that hey, you got another one, and it's usually not too much pressure. But I think in general at gyms I've been at before, um, having parents at the gym is tough because they're constantly watching and almost want to micromanage you to a degree, be like that where they think they know your job better than yourself. And when I had a kid at the last gym I was at, this is my last little anecdote here, he was with me for about 8 months, and then he left for another local gym because the mother was upset with how he was coaching. And then another 4 months later, he was at another gym in the area. And another year later, I saw him for another team. They're bouncing around from gym to gym to gym, and I think it helps you realize that sometimes you need to be confident in the way that you are coaching. And it's sometimes it's not all the pressure is on yourself. These parents just add so much pressure to their kids because they think the situation has to be so perfect in order for them to, be successful. But in reality, they just need to, be consistent and trusting within their coaches.
Yeah, I think most parents see it from a standpoint of they don't really know gymnastics necessarily. I'd say most parents never did gymnastics themselves, and if they did a rec class or something like that. They weren't high level competitive gymnasts most of the time, and so they try and compare it to experiences they've had where it's always a team sport. Right. And it's football or it's basketball or baseball or something like that. And those experiences are vastly different than gymnastics. There's not the individual pressure that gymnastics has. There's very rarely are there the mental issues in other sports that gymnastics has. I don't mean that our gymnasts are mental, but I mean that mental pressures in gymnastics, because gymnastics is inherently a dangerous sport, and eventually the kids figure it out. On the women's side, they figure it out really, really young, and I feel like on the men's side, they don't figure it out till like after they're done. And they go, oh yeah, you know what? Gymnastics was kind of dangerous. But on the women's side of things, especially, gymnastics feels dangerous, and you get these mental blocks or you get these mental struggles along the way that you don't get in other sports. And I think parents will sometimes have a hard time realizing that that's a real thing. Or realizing that it's something that takes time to get over and not something that's like, well, you had an off practice, try it again next time, you'll be fine, right?
Yeah, I want to kind of tag on to that and something that Thomas had said. The situation where you have some parents, and I call it camping out, they will come and watch every practice, start to finish, and I just wonder what these parents do. Like, do they have a life? Like, why are they sitting here for 3 hours, watching this training? So I think the communication from the coach to the parent, even if it's sent out in an email and say, hey, it's really important that you come and watch your child from time to time, but to sit there for the whole workout puts undue pressure on them. And kind of emphasize that, let the parents know because they really don't know. They don't know that they're putting extra pressure on their child by sitting there for the whole workout. The other side of that is the parent that never shows up. And that's not a good situation either because the child wants to feel that the parent cares about what they're doing and about their sport. So there has to be a balance, but I think you as the coach need to communicate that to the parent, what the best situation is, what the best scenario is for them to watch and observe their child during practice.
No, I agree. When I'm working with parents, I find out that a lot of the time they're questioning on why they haven't gotten a skill yet. They're like, well, aren't you supposed to have this by a certain time? Or they kind of create an own timeline in their head. And that really affects the gymnast too when I'm working with them because they feel like they're letting their parents down. And then another one that I run into frequently is where parents are kind of living through their kids. Like they can see that potential in them. They're like, oh, they could be elite if they would just like the sport. like, and it's hard for me to have those conversations with them and be like, your son is amazing, yes, but the only thing he likes to do is to compete. He doesn't actually like gymnastics. And it's hard for them to allow them in a way to try other sports and to do things that are good for them. It's like they're wanting to place these expectations on them. But that I feel like kind of goes into the perceived expectations kids have, that perceived pressure that they get, because when they're hearing their parents talk about, how good they could be or how good they should be or when they should be hitting these certain skills on a certain timeline, kids can start to pull those thoughts and those expectations and feel like they're their own. So instead of being about their gymnastics anymore, it's, well, I should be going to a D1 school. Like I should be doing college gymnastics when that wasn't maybe even something on their radar. It's just what their parents are thinking. Or, oh, I should be elite because, my mom's talking about it all the time, or my coaches say I have that potential. So that perceived pressure our gymnasts feel often stems from personal beliefs or thoughts that they have about themselves. A gymnast might feel the need to perform well because she or he believes their success reflects their self-worth or their commitment to the sport. And I think that's what I run into a lot is they don't think that they're worth anything, that they're not a good gymnast or a good kid or a good person if they don't do well. So this kind of pressure can be misleading and it is really hard on them. It leads to increased anxiety, that self-doubt, shame, guilt, like all these things that kids keep inside and they actually don't share with us. And that's when I start working with them because they actually may not even know this is a problem until we discuss it. So, what are some signs that gymnasts might be feeling perceived pressure that you guys have noticed in your gym rather than real pressure of what could just comes naturally with gymnastics?
I think one is when they have like this real dependency upon the coach versus independency. Like I want my gymnasts to own their gymnastics, especially, up to at a certain age, right? They start getting into middle school, like, all right, now your gymnastics is your gymnastics. It's not mine, it's not your parents, it's not anybody else's. You do gymnastics for you because you like it. And if you don't like it, soccer's cool, I guess. I don't think it's as cool as gymnastics, but some people do. So, there are other sports out there, there are other things that you might enjoy. So let's figure out that path, right? But if you're here, I want you to be here because of your gymnastics and because you like to be here. And so I make sure that I create that independency with my upper levels at least, right? Where, you know, when they're little bitty, yeah, they go, hey, Coach Ian, can I go to the bathroom? And it's like, yeah, now's a good time. Go ahead and go, right? But when they're an optional level gymnast, they're like, hey, I'm going to the bathroom. I was like, yep, thanks for letting me know, just so I don't think you've been taken or something like that, right? So I want to know where they are, but I don't, if they need to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. If they're old enough to know that now is a good time or now is not a good time. And if they abuse it, then, we talk about, why that needs some correction or something like that. But very rarely does that ever happen. So I want tendency. So I want your assignment to be done. I don't want to have to sit there and rotate level nines through a rotation on bars, right? I want you to have something that you need to get done, and I want you to get it done. And that doesn't happen, on my pre-team, or that doesn't happen in level 3. But by the time they get up in gymnastics, there should be some independency, and there should be some time where they start to own their own gymnastics.
Yeah, if I can just jump in, we've been talking a lot about competition and the additional stress, that the parents puts on, the coach puts on for, competition. But the other side that I see is during the summertime, if they don't have school, they have a lot more free time and they have this free time to enjoy. And then when school's starting up, they have their gymnastics and they have all their other things that they do. But during the summer, they have this free time. And now this free time goes away when school starts back up. And there's a lot of additional pressure that's being put on outside that we don't see through school. And we talked about that parent pressure that comes into play. But I think that's a good time for the coach to really assess and understand that, hey, this is a rough time. I can lose this kid. This kid could quit because it's just more than they can take. We've taken away all their free time. They don't have any free time now. And we want to make sure that it's a fun and enjoyable environment in the gym. So during that time of the year, at least for the men, a lot more game activities, fun things, group activities, really get them. So when they come to the gym, it's kind of a pressure release. It's something that it takes stress off of them because this is a fun place to be because they're feeling all those additional pressures from school and home and not having that free time that they're used to. So just for the coach to be aware of, it's not just competition that puts stress and pressure on the child, but it can even be, taking away their free time, as in they're losing that summer free time.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I see them now, like we're getting closer and closer to, like, I call it the postseason, right? My favorite time of year, playoffs, right? So we're getting ready to go with these kids and get to states, go to regionals, hopefully make it to Easterns or nationals, and then we got geared up for NJ nationals and all this like end of the year stuff, and then they have proms and dances and finals and midterms, and I see it on the child walking in the door. It's like this, dragging themselves in the door, and I'm thinking, what happened? And a few weeks ago, we were discussing the one of my athletes who just all of a sudden just kind of shut down, and she got an 89. You remember me telling you about that, but I'll review it. She got an 89, and it took us to bring her in the office to figure out what was wrong. So then I called the mom. And the mom's like, if I have to hear about this 89 one more time. So you know what? The 89 thing wasn't just here in the gym. It was home. It was at school. It was in her life. It was on her social media. It was everywhere. So I saw it. I saw the demeanor, and then we had to figure out where it was coming from and why did it happen. And like Mike was saying, game time and some little things like that too reminded me that in the summer, I always let them play volleyball for 5 minutes. They love to do a little circle volleyball. And I don't know if you've noticed, but some of the college coaches, they go away to other meets and they bring a volleyball with them. They do a volleyball warm up on the middle of the floor because it has nothing to do with gymnastics. Like when we're getting ready for states or whatever competition we're going to, and then I'll say, hey, let's go do 20 minutes of bounce bar. And then I get little kids that are doing, bounce giants, let go, see if you can go to handstand, see if you can throw it for a Maloney, see if you can sit it up for a Tkachev. And they're like, Mr. Rob, we have a competition in like 2 days. Yeah, but why are we doing this? We have routines. Nah, let's just do this to take our mind off of it. So I can see them stressing out. I think it's real important that we pay attention to their visual cues that they throw off at us. They're crying, they're not smiling, they're less talkative. Those are real important for us to catch up on. What can we do as a coach makes us a better coach? I feel like I like to pay attention to those things. And I'm telling you, volleyball is one of the greatest things. I think I'm going to go get the volleyball out today because just because maybe the whole gym needs a little stress relief and do some volleyball or go out back and play some wiffle ball or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's so true, Rob, because there's when they're playing a game like that, they're not thinking about anything else except for the ball's coming to me, and so it takes their mind off of all those other stresses. So, great idea.
Yeah, on our light weeks, we like to play like stick it as a warm up for floor. So we'll go on the tumble track, we'll play stick it, and I play with them. And I'm proud to say I can still beat them every once in a while, unless they play entries and they start doing back handsprings. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do all that mess. But it is a lot of fun, right? When we get to play in the gym, it's not always, but when we get to play in the gym, it always helps.
Yeah, I mean, I like to, this past competition we had about 2 weeks ago. So we had a big gap between our last regular season competition and Indiana State. So we had a month, right? And so, we've been hitting routines nonstop for like, 4 months now, even, putting sets together in early fall and things like that. And so that's all they've known these past few months is just routines. All right, I got to go hit my 5 routines on these events today. And it becomes so monotonous, right? And so after this competition, they came in expecting to do routines. I was like, all right, we have a month, right? So the last 3 weeks of this month, we'll probably still do routines. Let's go clean up what we need to tweak, right? But this week, they lined up and go, what do you guys want to work on? And they were really caught off guard, and they're like, but they got really excited about it. Everybody's like, I want to go here, I want to go do this, I want to go do this. And, within reason, I was like, yeah, let's go work on these. If it could be a new thing you want to work on, something that has been bothering you this season that you want to fix. I gave them freedom, and Ian, I love what you said about independency. That's like such a core value of what I bring into my coaching. Especially like you said with older guys, especially when you have like real little, you're like your team, or like the real younger guys. Like obviously you need that very specific structure, like 95% of the time. But with my older guys, I am around a lot. I don't have an assistant coach typically, so I'm working with my younger guys, and I have my older guys on the event next to us, and they know what they need to get done, and then they work really hard doing it still. And that way I can bounce back and forth and make sure I'm watching everybody properly. Like you said, the bathroom thing, that's just a small thing, but it's a big deal. Right? I just need to know where you're at. You're good to go. They know they have the freedom to do the things that they need to do and get them done the way that they want to get them done, as long as they hit the numbers I need for them to hit and they're doing, the right techniques that I want to train them. And I try to trickle that down a little bit to like, my 5s and 6s when they get to that middle school age. I shouldn't just be constantly babysitting you and yelling at you anymore. Like, let's see what you want to work on. How do you want to get this assignment done? You want to break it up into this many sets? I have a number you need to hit. How do you want to hit it? They see that with the older guys because, they look up to the older guys so much on the team. And I'm like, okay, well, you see how I let them work the way they need to work. I can offer that to you as well, but you got to show me that you can do it. And I do that every once in a while during the summer more so, right? During meet season, they need the structure. But during the summer and early fall, late summer, I'm like, all right, let's pick some things that you want to go work on. Don't just do what I tell you. Like, what do you think you need to work on for next season? What do you think's important? And that starts to build that, relationship with trust that I have with my older guys, and it trickles down. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, here at the end of season, we are setting goals for off season already, right? Because I don't want it to be 2 weeks after season's over, then all of a sudden we're going, oh, what do we need to work on? And obviously, I know what they need to work on, but I need them to know as well. And so we go, all right, let's set some off season goals. We had parent meetings with all the optional gymnasts this time around, and we said, hey, I want the parents involved too, because I've always said that parents are cautiously optimistic about gymnastics coaches, right? And they trust us enough to send their kid there, but they're at meets and they're going, oh, well, what's that gym doing over there? Or what's that gym doing, right? But they trust us enough to send their kid to our gym, and so I want to help build that trust, and I want to try and build that optimism. So the more that the parents know about the plan that we have for their child, the more buy-in we get from them as well. And so we discussed whatever their longest term goal was. Some of them, it was just a year that they had. Some of them, they have a college goal or something like that. That's 6 years down the line. And so I want to recognize what that longest goal is and talk, once they're at the appropriate age, talk about what that actually looks like and what that actually takes. When you get the level 3 in there that's, 6 years old and she goes, I want to be an Olympian. You're like, oh, cool. That'll be awesome. And then as they get older, you go, all right, this is what realistically that's what that looks like, right? But we talk about those longest term goals. We talk about the process it takes to get these off season goals that they look like. And then this year we did something new where I said, all right, well, level 1 is what's your ultimate goal, right? And then number 2 is what's the process to get to that goal? And then level 3 was what are the characteristic traits or habits that you need to develop in order to do the process in order to achieve the goal? And so the parents got real confused because we talked about what their level 3 goals were. Then I clarified some things and
That was
and
for
they had some
that was
really
for
good
level
answers,
three.
which were awesome. That's right.
I'm confused.
So that was with my optional gymnast, and we were just talking about those level 3 traits. Those what are my characteristics? What are my habits that I need to form in order to make the process work, in order to make the goal happen,
I want to see
and
that for
get some
level
good
10.
buy-in. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
No, that's good. I like that Ian has started that young because that's a great way to help relieve pressure. A lot of our kids, why they have all this extra perceived pressure is because they're making unrealistic goals. They're setting themselves pretty much up for failure. They're like, well, I need to be perfect on every one of my routines at this competition, or I need to make tens on everything. And it makes it very difficult for them to achieve those goals. So they're always breaking themselves down. They're never satisfied or happy with what they're doing. So realistic goals are great. I love the mixing it up when you can tell your gymnasts are feeling a lot of pressure during finals, during anything like that. The games are great. I just worked with a girl who was so excited because, there's 5 weeks until state and they got to do upgrades. She was like, that was the best thing ever. I got to go in. We've been doing routines constantly. And it was a great break from her trying to work on the stuff we had been working on too. So it just gives them that love and that enthusiasm back for gymnastics. Some other things that I've noticed that helps manage their pressure is breaking things down for them. Because sometimes, they fixate on the end product. What if I don't do well? Or those expectations that they need at the end. I need to get this 10. I need to get whatever this total score is to go to regionals or whatever it is. Breaking down the steps for them again, for them to realize what they need to be doing for that specific skill. We need to be focused on in that moment, in the present. Is there anything else that you guys can think of that you've done that's helped with relieving pressure?
Well, I'd like to throw it in there because like we do a little bit of goal setting with our younger kids, and as they get away from it in the upper levels, they don't have as much time because of their homework and whatnot to actually journal and keep their skills. But some of the things we do with the upper kids when I feel like they're stressed out is I take them off and have them go work with the compulsory kids and have them go teach the little ones, and they'll come back and they'll be like, hey, Mr. Robinson, check this out. So-and-so, she got her double back handspring today. And they're like so excited that they helped them get it. And it's like, could be in the middle of practice, could be like on their day off, or instead of just putting them in a class and they're doing a forward roll, put them with the compulsory kids or like the preteen kids. And so they get to use some of their knowledge with the little ones. And they get so excited to see the kid do like a cartwheel on the beam and make it on the high beam. They went from the low beam to the high beam. And then we can turn that around into, do you see what the success is of a child, how happy they are that they're doing their flight series? Because that's their flight series, right? It's a cartwheel. You're doing flip layout. Like, put that into perspective of how happy you should be when you make all of your flight series. So that's been working out a lot for us lately.
I like that. So I think we're kind of getting close to the end and we probably need to wrap it up. So I just want you to remember, everybody, that pressure is really common in gymnastics. So gymnasts, you are not alone. And coaches and parents, if you've been adding pressure to your gymnasts, that's okay. The first step is to identify that you are doing it and to take an active role in trying to change your behavior. Pressure can be managed with awareness and the right tools, a lot of the things we just talked about. So gymnasts, by differentiating between real and perceived pressure, like being able to figure that out, if it's this real pressure that we're experiencing, or are we kind of maybe making this up in our mind, you'll be better prepared to handle all those challenges that are thrown at you in gymnastics. So thank you everyone for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. It helps us reach more of the gymnastics community. Have a topic you'd want us to cover? Reach out. We'd love to help. Until next time, stay happy, healthy, and high performing.